Welcome to New Game Plus, a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
80 carry Nolan.
And this is episode 316, and it is a Patreon poll!
I forgot it was.
Cool.
I feel like you forget it is every time it is
I
a
forget
Patreon
a lot.
poll.
Yep.
Yep. And the boys have been playing League of Legends.
Didn't we already talk about this?
We have
Yeah,
before.
I don't want to talk about it.
They are gifted. They are
Well.
skilled.
Well,
And
Neither of those things are true.
they are spending far too much money
all right.
on the
listen.
game.
No, that's not how it works.
Listen, there is on the official league support site a tool that you can use where you log in, and it will tell you how much money have I spent on League. That's what the tool's called. And I was curious, so I looked it up and sent it to the boys, which started a pretty interesting conversation yesterday about
we didn't
how we spend
finish
our
it.
money. No, we
We
didn't.
didn't finish it, so I thought we'd bring it live on air
Okay,
and
Kenny.
finish the conversation here.
So we don't know what
So
Kenny
the
spent.
game
He
of the
won't tell us.
week this week
Here's the thing.
is
I
a
looked
Star
up
Wars title.
I looked up mine and realized that somehow in my limited time playing, although I did play a couple years, I don't know.
Yeah, you
I-
played for a long
Easily
time.
5 years.
I don't know if I played 5 years.
Okay,
That's a long
2011.
time.
2011. Is when we
That's
started.
when.
To 2016? Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
I spent $110. Okay.
That's
I,
no problem.
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed by that. It is more than what I would have thought. I don't know if I spent 110 of my own dollars, but I spent $110. It says
Okay.
on my account. Nolan has multiple accounts, but on this one, he has spent $295.
Yes, on the one I shared, $295.
But you had one that you had spent more time on, right?
One season, yeah, and I bought skins on there. I don't remember the login, so I can't tell you the
Right.
number. It's 400 at least.
Okay. So to clear that up again, Dustin 110, Nolan 295 on this account. Kenny wouldn't tell us.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
No, Kenny.
I don't think he's going to now either.
No, I'm not. You're not putting me on blast live on the air.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm
no.
going to tell you something that I wouldn't tell you just talking about it
I
in
don't know
person.
why you're so embarrassed.
Because it's more money than you.
Fine. It'd be
That's
awesome to know that.
ridiculous. On microtransactions for a video game.
It's a free look. I'll convince you. It's a free to play game. We have enjoyed it for 10 years on and off. And off. That's a long time.
Yes.
You have a lot of fun with it. It's a fun group game that we used to play together. Fond memories, worth spending in a 10-year span a lot of money on. I'll say a lot. You could spend a lot, and it's okay.
And this is what I will say before you have an excuse and you still don't tell us, is that if a AAA title game cost about $60 and you bought one per year, then I would say you spending around $600 something in 10 years is completely justifiable.
Of course.
Now turning it over to you, Kenny, to announce the grand total
of. Why are you the worst?
I'm not doing it.
Why? I'm gonna guess, and you're gonna.
But now
nod.
I'm not doing it just because I've declared I'm not doing it, and I'm not gonna change.
Tell me if I'm hot or cold.
You're cold.
550.
Okay.
It's 550 to 600, folks.
No, it's over 600. It is over.
Oh, it's over 6. It's over 6.
We're not gonna talk about it. It's less. It's less than a mortgage, but more than a taco run to Taco Bell.
Yeah, so no help from you. No surprise. I didn't expect you to tell us on this episode because you are you and we've known you long enough and we can't force you to tell us, and there's no Ray you'll come clean here live on air, so you'll just have to squeeze me for calling you a fat piece of Sith.
Misa!
Like in our Misa! Like in our
Good
retro
night.
Game of the Week, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Overview.
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, or KOTOR for short, is a 2003 ARPG, where A doesn't stand for action, but it stands for American.
American?
It's a Western.
Yeah, you can't call it that.
It's JRPG, ARPG. What else you want me to call it?
I don't know. Not that.
Not that. It was a game that was submitted to the Patreon pool by two of our friends, Maxima and Antonin. And this game originally came out for the Xbox and then the PC as well right after. Now it's on everything, but those were the original two consoles. And it is a BioWare and LucasArts game set in the Star Wars universe.
And is not the game I thought it was when we said all of that.
What did you think it was?
I knew there was a older Star Wars RPG that was well loved. I got this name though confused with the other fairly popular Star Wars games from back in the day that I think are actually called Battlefield.
Yeah.
Is that the one where you're like
Battlefront?
Those aren't
around?
RPGs.
No,
they're not RPGs at all.
Yeah.
Battlefront.
Yeah, so I realized I didn't have the name straight in my mind. So when we first said this game, I was hyped for some like action running around, force shooting kinds of adventure, not like story-driven RPG kinds of adventure. Quickly realized, of course, I was wrong because that's a silly assumption. But yeah, not that.
No, it's kind of a fair assumption. There are a ton of Star Wars games. A ton. Not many big RPG titles, I don't think.
And those were popular fairly around the same era.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, prequel. That was prequel era. Yeah.
Well, let me. Are you talking prequel movie era?
Yes.
I guess that's
yeah, movie prequel
there.
movie era.
Is the prequel to this episode era.
It is that era.
It all happened in that era.
I do agree that there's a healthy amount of Star Wars games, but there's not a healthy amount of quality Star Wars games. A lot of them varied, and again, very few of them were this massive, this expansive. You've got a lot of Super Nintendo Star Wars titles, which I can't believe we haven't played on this podcast yet, because I've got some fond memories with some of those. The only Star Wars game that we have played on this podcast is Episode 1 Racer. And and it fell
a good one.
It fell flat for us, if I recall correctly.
I would have thought we'd played more Star Wars games. Like, the SNES one that everyone loves. The platformer.
No.
Okay.
So, coming back to this game was developed by BioWare. It's a Canadian video game developer, and you might know them because of the Mass Effect series or the Dragon Age series. Massive success, massive quality when it comes to BioWare. And this is one of their earlier at least, titles, at least RPGs in their repertoire.
Did they do Baldur's Gate?
Baldur's Gate?
Y'all both did it at the same time?
Yeah, we did.
Sure. I mean, if y'all are saying that, I would assume so, or y'all are both...
No, I don't know. I'm asking because I associate Baldur's Gate with BioWare for some reason, and so I was just asking.
They did.
Okay.
Baldur's Gate,
and
Neverwinter Nights. They also did the Jade Empire series. So
so they had some RPG experience before this, but never this sort of take or tack on an RPG.
And the responsibility of not creating your own IP, which that's difficult enough, but taking an established IP, especially now, that is not licensed out to nearly anyone. Like, there's a lot of protection over IPs today.
This wouldn't happen in the same way, at least, today.
Well, this is what I think it's called, the expanded universe, or it was called that before Disney acquired Star Wars, and now I think that they threw all of that in the trash. I'm not 100% sure, because I said last episode I'm actually not a huge Star Wars fan. I grew up loving the prequels, loving the original trilogy because my cousin was obsessed with it, but I grew out of them. What? What?
Oh, I was gonna say, what's the opposite of force sensitivity? Nolan's just like a force dullard.
Force desensitivity. He's desensitized to the Force.
Yeah, and so and then when Disney started doing them up, it really put me off, and so I was just like, I don't know. And so an extended universe or expanded universe, whatever they call it, which is like content that's based on the original but is like written by other people, and that's good for me as an entry point. And so that's why this game was always kind of like, okay, I'll give that a try.
When Disney took over Star Wars, they decanonized the majority, really, of the Star Wars universe. The movies obviously remained canon. The Clone Wars remained canon. A few of the books remained canon, but everything else became Star Wars lore. What, Kenny?
Who do they think they are?
I know.
They're Disney, and they own the property and can do whatever they
bought
want.
it. Yeah,
What gives them the right?
Okay, well,
Money.
Yeah, like everything legally gives them the right to do that.
Money. They bought it.
I don't care.
They paid for that, and so they didn't erase, but made expanded universe a lot of this stuff, which is just lore now. However, Knights of the Old Republic, I don't believe that it's been officially determined one way or the other if it is established canon, but there are references to things that happen in this video game that would make readers and watchers and Star Wars fans today believe that Knights of the Old Republic is a part of the established canon even today in the Disney world. And my question will be is, because they're remaking it, when it's remade, will they clarify this is a part of the Disney Star Wars canon and lore?
They
might be getting too deep here, but it is interesting to me if it's actual canon or not.
Yeah.
It did come out on the Xbox in 2001, and we've only played a handful of games on that console as a part of this podcast because it's a newer console.
Yeah.
I owned an Xbox late in the game, like we didn't have it right away. Nolan, you didn't?
I didn't. I had a 360.
360, and then Kenny?
I had an Xbox.
Okay. And we've all had experience with Knights of the Old Republic. Wait. We all said so last episode, but Kenny thought it was a different game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not thinking of this game. I was remembering hype, and I was thinking of the other one, of Battlefront.
So do you have any experience with KOTOR?
I not direct. Like
Wow.
I haven't played it or watched it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I will say, even though this game is 21 years old, even though this game is 20-something years old, whatever.
Yikes.
Yeah,
19, I think it's more 19, right? It came out in 2003.
It's 19, but still,
so
that's so long.
Still, it's an older game now. I still think that we shouldn't divulge major story beats in order to maintain mystery, especially with the remake coming around the corner. I really think that's important.
I agree.
That's fair. I accidentally spoiled
God
for myself a little bit this week, and it bummed me out because there's at least one really big reveal that would have been so fun to get naturally.
Yeah.
Well,
your main character is Darth Vader's son, probably related to somebody, No. With that being said, let me give a little bit of the story. Okay, so a long time ago,
in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. Actually set
Hilarious.
thousands of years before the prequels, which is interesting because the creator, the story writer, was given an option. You can write during episode 1.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, I think. You can do an episode 2 story, or you can do this like historic thing.
And he did historic, and it was the right way to go.
Of course.
So set thousands of years before the prequels, the Jedis have secured a victory over the Sith by defeating the Dark Lord Revan. However, his former apprentice, Malak, has taken power and is striking back. And your character wakes up on a ship called the Endar Spire. It's a Republic ship that's under attack. And with the help of pilot Karth Onasi, you manage to escape the ship and you crash land on the planet Terrace, which just begins your journey towards becoming a Jedi and defeating the Sith. Hopefully.
Sounds familiar.
Well,
I feel like Star Wars has one plot.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. It works for them.
it's weird for me because I have played the game. Actually, the same year we started the podcast was the first time I'd played this game, so this is kind of a weird revisit for me, and very familiar. I didn't finish it then, and I still haven't finished it. I'm not been spoiled, so yes, please don't say anything, because I do want to know and play through it. But yeah, I don't know why I picked it up in 2015.
What I'd give to watch you do a full let's play of this game without, if you really don't know some of the major story beats, that would be so much
I could
fun.
make that happen.
It's one of those stories that that you wish you could relive again for the very first time, and to watch someone else do it, you get a little bit of that joy and experience. So at the end of this episode today, I'll spoil it for you.
Okay.
Gameplay.
Having played more modern RPGs like Mass Effect, I think you come in with a certain expectation of what this game plays like. But I think the best way to describe it for me is that it is always about story first, and then the way you play the game comes second. And the way you play the game is more familiar with Baldur's Gate in that stop and assess playstyle. And this one's hard because on the one hand, and we'll have to explain what I mean by stop and assess, but it's very dated and feels bad and clunky. On the other hand, it is that classic Baldur's Gate style that I have to appreciate, and it feels so PC. I know this was Xbox first, PC second, but it felt so perfectly PC era RPG. And so I don't even know what to think about the pacing of the gameplay. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I love it and hate it.
For clarity, the underlying combat system here is a turn-based combat system based on classic.
I mean,
it is
under the hood, it's
classic
supposed to be
D&D rules that's been wrapped in a sort of faux real-time wrapper to allow you to go through combat real-time if you would like, where all the classic underlying D&D mechanics of character traits, on-hit rules, saving throws, all of that sort of normal RPG stuff is governing how the fights go.
He's shaking his head no. What?
I mean,
that's true.
It's
No,
kinda true.
I mean, kind of true. I'm just trying to sympathize with people that are listening to this podcast not having much understanding of the game, and I think they're already lost and asleep. The not just the combat, but all of the gameplay in this game is D&D based. 3.5. They straight up tell you in this game that they're rolling D20s. That's a 20-sided dice that you use as your core dice in Dungeons and Dragons. And so all of those numbers are happening sometimes on the screen, but a lot of times behind the screen and behind the scene to determine if you're successful in picking a lock, if you're successful in persuading an opponent, if you're successful in making a hit in combat. And the reason why I said no on turn-based is because the way that they describe it and the way that I think it makes most sense is that it's round-based, like Dungeons and Dragons is. It's different. It's very different.
It's the same thing. A set of actions
Here
are
we go.
happening, and then another set of actions are happening. It's not real time.
It's
A round is just
that's why you're wrong. And I'll say this, and then you can say whatever. I don't want to argue about it, but it's not turn by turn. It's within a round. Any sort of things can happen in any kind of order.
Okay, concurrent turned based. Everybody gets to take one concurrent turn, and you can call it a round. Those happen one at a time. That's a turn-based game. It's not real time, which is the point.
It is real time within the round. It is real time within the round.
Y'all are getting hung up on terminology.
We are for sure.
Like for sure.
But the reason why I'm determined to make the distinction is because this is completely different than your standard JRPG turn-based game.
Yeah, but I don't think
It is,
either one of
and
us are arguing that.
And it's completely different from any kind of action game that it looks like it's trying to be.
Right. So it needs
If
to
you
be its own
looked at the
thing,
visuals
maybe
of this-
round-based.
Right. If you looked at the visuals of this
Y'all are dumb.
without understanding how it actually plays out, you would think you need to hit your attack and you need to dodge and you
Yeah.
need to move. You have no control over any of that.
Dear listener, in combat, you can pause the game and look at what's going on around you and choose different actions that you want to take place when you unpause. Again, if you've played Mass Effect, this should feel similar. That's all I'll say about it. I don't care what it's called.
Yeah, and I would say Mass Effect is a little bit more action-based and is more refined in this. Obviously, this is some of the this is some of the beginning of this.
Yes.
But it is interesting that I realized this week I didn't recall that it was so D&D heavy and influenced. I played D&D before I played D&D. Like,
yeah, like this game you mean?
Everybody
Before you
did.
played the real thing?
yeah, this is straight up Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Why reinvent the wheel, though, when you have
Yeah.
this system that's robust that gives you an ability to keep a game relatively balanced, to give you some combat? It makes sense for it to be the underlying sort of system that powers tons and tons and tons of old games. And there's a reason that it's done. Sure, it's a little restrictive, but especially 2003, doing an RPG, and you've lived in that world before as BioWare forever, you absolutely should. But yes, they did a pretty good job of hiding that. If just a Star Wars fan that wasn't into D&D and couldn't care less about typical RPGs jumped into this, outside of the character stats, I don't know that you would ever really know that some of the like mechanics here were driven by those classical rules.
Speaking of the stats, I did skip over the very beginning of the game, which is character customization, which in 2003 was becoming a thing more than it had in the past. In RPGs in the 90s, you're handed a main character for the most part. Maybe you can name them. But in this one, you're changing the way your character looks. You're choosing a class. You're assigning stats, which is very D&D. It's straight up like you have your character sheet in front of you and you're assigning points, which is great. I had to use, and I have to, but I did use a build guide. Yeah. Because I don't think you can really gimp yourself. You probably can, but I just wanted a straight up like brawler character. I normally don't play this role. I usually play like rogue style scout, but I went soldier. I went soldier. I went strong, and yeah, that's that. And I wanted to play, and we'll get into this later. I wanted to play. Well, I won't spoil that part because we'll talk about it. But yeah, I was just going to be a brute force character, and that 2003 feels early for that depth.
This is the dawn of a new RPG era, not just here, but during these years. I believe Morrowind came out right before this game. And so with Morrowind and this game, and there's a handful of others within the early 2000s that started to really recreate or improve the
immersion.
I don't know about improve, but yeah, immerse the gamer into the role rather than here's a character, but you create a character. If you want the character to look a little bit like you can try to do that. Not here really. There's not many. You've got like presets. But this is the early era of really putting it in the player's hand and saying, create your character.
I mean, you always are allowed to at least name your character, which is the easiest way to define who they are and whether or not they're going to be a complete moron.
I would like to hear your character names because, well, I think I know Dustin's unless you ran a different one.
Did you not watch the first play? You make a character named Dunce.
I didn't stick with Dunce. She was just my first play character.
It sounds Star Warsy.
It kind of did. Dunce, I don't even remember the last name, but I ended up creating a scout named Lorne Al Arcos.
Cool.
I was building him, I wanted to really do a one of the main antagonists or characters in this game is Darth Revan, and I really wanted to do a Revan inspired build. So I was
Ooh, okay.
so when I finally became Jedi, I was going more of a Jedi Sentinel route, and I was really trying to build. I wanted to role play this game,
Sure.
not as like me in the game, but as another character in the game.
So to get full Star Wars immersion, you went with a Wheel of Time naming convention.
Okay.
Actually, Lorne Al Arcos, the full name there is from Red Rising series.
Ooh.
Whatever.
In your face.
The Al prefix is real Wheel of Time.
My
is.
character's name was Dak Chard.
I'm good on the first name. I don't love Charles.
Well,
Sounds like a crisped up piece of bantha fodder.
it
okay.
does. And then Kenny, were you Caleb?
No,
Yes.
I used a pre-generate a name, which actually works pretty well. The ones
Yeah,
it
Star Wars,
spits
yeah.
out feel real Star Warsy, and
Yep.
I just went through a few until there was one that felt real.
A big part of this game that was super intriguing, and probably not the first. I always, there's probably always a predecessor before, but one of the first game that I played where I could be evil, where I could be the bad guy,
yes, sir.
and not just make bad decisions, but become a bad guy. With Star Wars, you've got light side and dark side, and in
gray.
this game, and somewhere in the middle. In this game, the decisions you make, both in dialogue and otherwise, often lead you closer to one side or the other.
Which is super fun and works well in the Star Wars universe. It was becoming a thing in video games around this time. I mean, this is near when Fable comes out and some of those other
Oh yeah.
kind of explorations of sort of, like branching routes and like actions determining character development kinds of things and that sort of take on RPGs. So, in like the scheme of like what games were being developed, it really feels like that era. But works super well in this universe where you just have these sort of polarities that define everything, because you get to make choices all along the way, from like being super kind and generous and helping people to like being the worst and self-centered and taking everything you want. And it works great.
I think this one is better than some of those other examples. Well, Fable's kind of its own thing. Fable's amazing, but this game is so great because small little voice lines that you choose even have implications. And with your party members as well, you can influence some of them to become evil also. Some of them don't like you. Like that was something extremely new, to have that much impact on the game around you, rather than just going through the story and getting it. You're actually making influenced change. And of course I went Sith. I always usually take the like vanilla path, like the good guy path. Like in Fallout, I don't really kill everybody. But this time I went a different class and I wanted to make all the mean things happen. And so I was going Sith.
I take umbrage with the fact that the good guy is vanilla. Also with vanilla being derogatory.
What?
Vanilla is a great flavor.
Stop it.
Vanilla is a great flavor,
Y'all
and
and your
there's nothing wrong
terminology.
with playing the good guys.
Hey,
Okay.
Nolan, there's one common thread here with y'all and y'all's terminology, and it's a guy with a hat. So listen, I love the idea, light side, dark side. I love the idea of decisions you make in game impact and affect your teammates, impact and affect the story. Like, so much so in this game that you can cripple yourself in certain ways. You can kill off party members
Not okay. But
before
also
bringing
okay.
them onto the party.
Yeah.
Like, you can do things that drastically influence the way that you play this game and the story beats as well. So I love the idea, I love the freedom, I love the concept. I don't love the implementation all the time here, because there's no nuance. It's either
Yeah,
you
that's
can
true.
be a normal person, or you can slaughter someone's child
Yeah.
in front of them just
Yeah.
in like the dark side choices have no nuance. It is just absolute massacre everyone that you come across.
I mean, look at episode 3. That's what happened.
There's no
Either be the
nuance.
good guy or slaughter children.
You don't just
Like,
right. You don't just
True.
you don't just flip a switch and get there. Usually,
Yeah, it's a
Anakin
slow
did?
descent. It's a slow descent. I wanted more nuance in my dark side choices because that's what I would do if I was dark
Sure.
side. I would not just go around and be like I don't even want to
calling
go into
people
some
names.
of the details here, but like my brother had told me this week about he was playing and he did something terrible and then came before the Jedi Council and just boldface lied to them, but his teammates are standing there calling him out like, wait, no, that's not what happened. It was just it presents really
But see, no,
awkward
I love that.
scenarios.
I love even when it doesn't make sense. Like you'll be in a conversation and it'll be your turn to say something, and it'll be a straight up insult out of the blue, and you're like, whoa. But I think
Yeah.
that's so fun. I love. I don't know. I get what you're saying, but it's early enough that I can forgive them for it, and also it just made me laugh most of the time.
In the past, when I played this game through the very first time, I chose light side because that's the right side of things.
Vanilla.
Which is delicious and great. I
Yeah.
agree with you, Kenny. And this time I started to do the dark side, but just felt so stupid going around. It's like a middle school playground bully.
yeah, you felt like a cringy edgelord and just couldn't keep it up because of your like cognitive dissonance with like role playing and how completely unrealistic some of these choices are.
Yeah,
No.
it's unbelievable. There are a few side quests. Well, there's a lot of side quests. There are a few.
Bunch.
I'm not even talking about side quests. I'm talking about like excursions to the game. I'm not being able to think of what they are right now, but like fun things to do. One is racing. Another is Pizzac. Please tell me that y'all at least played one game of the card game, the Pizzac
I
game
did
this
not.
week.
I didn't either, but I was super intrigued.
Is it
I
Gwent?
love mini games within other games, and I
Mini
made a
games.
huge note: go back and play more of this because I probably could spend more time playing mini games than the real game half the time.
Why are you
I'm
smiling?
the guy that
Me?
I'm just the guy that, he's not surprised. Is why I'm the guy that jumps in Witcher and then ends up sitting down at the first inn and being like,
And
"Oh yeah,
right.
this is what the game's about."
Yeah, and then you just live your life and play Gwent the whole time. That's what it's called, right? Gwent?
It's called Gwent, yeah. But it seems like there's something silly about this game.
There's
or it's
not.
just good.
No, it's just one of those mini games that
Gotcha.
is addictive. That
Yeah.
it's really simplistic. You're just trying to get to 21. It's like blackjack,
Oh.
but you've got cards that you can play that are plus or minus, or it can even be one or the other, and you just have to try to get closest to 21 against your opponent. Best out of 3 win. It's something simplistic, but it's one of those that's super addicting at the same time. And I spent a couple hours playing this dumb game this week.
Dang. I love the simple mini games like that. Usually I say no to those, and that's what I did this week because I was like, I don't want to learn a game right now. Like Gwent, to me, they're like, oh, it's easy to learn. I don't think so. I don't want to have to find cards throughout the game and then use them and then learn. Like, to me, I'm not like Kenny. I like easy mini games that you like don't have to try or think about, but if I have to learn rules, then I'm just gonna move on.
Especially if you have to collect pieces throughout, but I love how it connects it to like the lore. Not here with Star Wars,
Sure.
but I'm thinking about like the Final Fantasy games where you can collect cards throughout your journey and then you play card games there. I've always had a special place in my heart, a fondness for these kinds of games. I shouldn't have gotten sidetracked with them this week because I had a job to do, and instead of becoming a Jedi, I'm playing cards at a bar.
It's part of the game.
Yeah. I think that this game does a really good job in many areas, and storytelling is the top. I said that earlier, but there really is the driving force that what brought me back throughout the week. When you start to uncover other characters, and in RPGs, building your party is such a fun thing to me. I always love doing that. And Star Wars characters are quirky and great. But in this one, when I got to what's the first guy's name? Karth, the first companion. Love him. Great sidekick. I started to think they fell off a little bit in the characters, and I didn't get through the game. I'm not even close. But I wanted more from like character story and character quests, and I'm guessing that you get to do that, but I felt like in Mass Effect they did a better job hinting to those. I just felt like they were along for the ride here. I'm probably wrong. But I don't know.
It just takes time. Were you ever walking around and you get a message that Karth looks disturbed or frustrated?
Yeah.
So if you follow those lines when it happens and ask questions, you slowly get background story development, and potentially with certain characters might get some side quests later. That with almost everything in this game is a slow grind. I think that this is a slower, and I'll talk more about it in our next section, but like it takes a while for really anything to happen here, and you're going to put in a good amount of hours before you get deeper and deeper into character stories. I mean, you're not even picking up some of your teammates until 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours into the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a relatively long game. It is an RPG. You're putting in 60 plus hours into this one. And so, like always, we kind of scratch the surface on these playing for just a week. But they were very intentional about not making this game as long and as much of a grind as some of their other RPG titles, some of the Baldur's Gate titles. They wanted it to be a little shorter and a little bit more accessible and kind of quicker paced story, I think. And they did a pretty good job with that. I feel like the story moves along quickly, and though there are some side quests and things that you can do, I never felt like they were super distracting, and they always felt really optional to me, which I don't know why that is. I'm sometimes the guy that chases those in, I do the Skyrim thing where I'm like, oh wait, there's actually a conflict here,
Right.
at the end of the game after I've done everything. So I don't know. I felt like they did a pretty good job there.
I think I just need to spend more time with it. Within the week, preparing for the podcast, I was like, I need to stay on track with the main story. But I'm with you, Kenny. I'm not with you when you said that it's the pacing is like pretty good. I kept getting distracted because I thought some of these things, like the Taurus section, I thought was done great. It reminded me of what's it called in Mass Effect, that the hub like city that you go to.
Citadel?
Yeah, the Citadel. Like they do the starter area so well, BioWare does. And so I really loved that, and I loved getting some of the lore of the Sith armada that is occupying it. But I don't know. I need to spend more time with it, and knowing it's a slow grind makes sense.
Aged.
I was very worried that we were going to come into this 2003 title that was Xbox, and it was going to look janky as all get out. Some games do. Yeah. There's sort of an element to retro games where sometimes the graphics become sort of a sticking point. I didn't find that here. It looks relatively good even in 2020. You're not getting, modern graphics. It's not what you're expecting. Sure, you get a couple of alien faces that are a little awkward and you're like, what were they thinking? But mostly it felt Star Wars. Mostly you could tell who the characters were and what they looked like. Mostly you could tell where you were going in the world, and sometimes your backgrounds were a little bland and whatever else, but cutscenes look like I was, though not blown away, I was more pleased with the graphics than I thought I was going to be, given what the game is.
I think they were really smart with this. I had read something that they intentionally, they gave good graphics, but they simplified them to some degree so that it wouldn't look drastically different between consoles. You're especially working with PC and Xbox at the time, and so one could have looked janky compared to the other. But they kind of, their palettes are really clean and really simplified, and I think in doing so, they did themselves favors. And so, yeah, the game never looked gross. In fact, it looked good to great. And then you just mentioned in passing, Kenny, cutscenes. The cutscenes, especially the ones that are fully rendered videos, are
great.
Phenomenal.
Modern.
Great. Yeah. Really well done.
The thing that always did bother me though about the presentation of the game is the animations. I always thought the characters looked kind of like stickmen, like walking. There's always like a stiffness to their movement, but that was probably also intentional because it's hard to like animations from N64 clearly will age because they didn't know how to do joints and like move your character around. So like this is like a safe way to do that, and it looks fine. It doesn't distract me. And also I loved about the presentation the intro. It's just a familiar like bang, like Star Wars horns, and then it does the scrolling text. Ages perfectly because we still see that in theaters when we go see the movies. Like they took the IP and they treated it with care, and I really love that in the graphics and in the way they just like showed you the game. So good.
And you just mentioned the horns and the fanfare up front. The music is easily great because it's Star Wars music. Even the like backing music and other stuff that was created for this, I felt like, yeah, it doesn't live up to maybe some of the best of the Star Wars universe, but it fits.
Sure.
I would take that past music even to just the sound in general. The sound effects sounded very Star Wars and were on point.
Sabers.
Yeah, and we've talked about that this thing was voice lined, but I don't think we have talked about the fact that it was like fully voice lined. You're talking all of those options of character interactions that you're getting, which means like branching decisions and voice lines, were all true actors, fully recorded, actual voice lines. And that's hard and big and always impressive to me when a game is willing to put in the time to write the whole thing out and to like just grind out the content that it takes to fully voice line all of the options that you have for the entire game. And really well done on top of that.
For a game that came out in 2003, having a cast of over 100 voice actors was unheard of.
That's a movie. That's a
unheard
cast,
of,
dude.
and they even had
more than a movie.
Yeah,
they even had a few like they didn't just get scrubs either. They had like Jennifer Hale and Ed Asner and a few other notable names. And
Hale.
The thing that's remarkable with this is that I read something about a game this size would typically take months to record all of these, but I believe that they recorded like day and night and were able to get all of these done in 5 weeks, and they're good. They're not even cheesy. Sometimes we go back in this early voice acting where like it's over the top, but it's good, it fits. This is great.
Well, and also what goes along with that is the writing. It was written by Drew Karpyshyn, and that guy wrote Mass Effect 1 and 2 before leaving BioWare.
And then went on to write some of the best Star Wars novels.
Books,
the Bane trilogy, I believe.
Yeah, and I read the first one of that trilogy. Yeah. Great.
And
yes.
And it feels Star Wars authentic.
Yeah.
The type of way that folks talk and the alien speech and all of those things, it very much feels universe appropriate, and that's hard to do as a writer, like coming in to work in another format.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch
nailed
that.
It.
Are you crazy? I'd be so scared. Like, and that's why I love this part of the Star Wars content, because it's so original and actually good and like rich with like character development and story. And like, I'm not mad about the new Star Wars movies. Star Wars fans are, and I think it's hilarious. Star Wars fans are so pissed. But like, this truly is better to me, and I wish that there was more of this it's not source material, more of this material within the universe. I'm actually okay. Here's my plan, guys. With this remake coming out, I'm stopping this one. I would love to play the original. I love originals over remakes in general, but I am gonna stop and I'm gonna start fresh with the remake, and I'll stream it and I'll get through it, and that's my plan. Because like.
Yes.
Yeah. They should have.
It'll be so fun.
It'll be a few years
to watch do that.
Until it happens. But yeah, absolutely, because they're gonna work out the kinks, because there are kinks here. Like, it does age, Nolan. You had referenced earlier. I think the pacing is it's a slow grind up front. There's tons of world building. The battle system isn't perfected there. So there's some things that can certainly be bettered, perfected, made made stronger. And I think they'll do that with the remake, but they don't have to do much. They don't have to touch the story. They don't have to do much change to the characters. There's so much good here that remaking it, I mean, hopefully they don't destroy and dismantle what made this what it is. But if they just keep a lot of what they had, they'll be able to really produce a quality game, and I would love to watch you play that for sure.
Yep.
Knights of the Old Republic is easy to get your hands on today. It's on Steam. It's on Switch. I had some technical issues playing on Steam this week.
Same.
And so I heard from some of our community members that even on the Steam version, there's some technical issues. And so you're going to face some of those. After battle, for example, my common thing is after battle, I would lose control. Like I couldn't move my character anymore. So I'd have to quick save, quick load to be able to move my character again.
Yeah, it happened to me too.
That's problematic. Some people could like switch VSync options and fix that. I'm just saying that you can easily get your hands on a copy today. However, there might be some technical issues that you'll have to face or deal with. There is a sequel to Knights of the Old Republic. It's Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords.
Obsidian developed that.
Oh, yeah. I did not know it was a different
New
developer.
Vegas. Yeah, BioWare asked them to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard it's really good. Some people like it even more than this one. And then there's an MMORPG that I don't know why we aren't playing that is still receiving development today. That first came out in 2011 called The Old Republic. So
I remember when that dropped, and their pricing thing was like weird to me, and I didn't jump into that. No. MMOs, dude, no.
If you want an Xbox copy, $9 used, $58 new, not a problem. And if you want an old PC disc, which I don't know why you would when you can play it on Steam, you can get it for a little bit cheaper even than that. So very easy to get your hands on today.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. I'll begin by saying KOTOR is a fan favorite of mine from 2003, 2004, whenever I originally played it. Still have the official strategy guide today. And so I loved this game. Coming back to it, I realize that it is a far from perfect game. It has issues. It is very slow up front. Actually, like right up front, it's engaging, and then it's slow, and then it starts to pick up as soon as you get to the end of Taris and get off planet, because there's other planets to explore, other Star Wars places to visit, and people to visit, and it's really immersive. It's really expansive, and I just think it's an incredible RPG that is absolutely flawed, but is one of the best Star Wars stories to date. And if you are a Star Wars fan that is jaded by recent Star Wars things,
shut up.
This would be something to be able to come back to and find warmth in, and find the traditional love and respect for the story and the world that may be lost today. So I certainly give Knights of the Old Republic my vote for New Game Plus status.
Who should go second? Kenny?
Sure.
I'll jump in.
Just walk in.
Just walk in,
No, I'm
bro.
jumping in head first.
Force push yourself into it.
Done.
I'm gonna force choke you if you don't start talking.
So classics like this worry me sometimes. There are times that they are gems kind of waiting for you to play if you didn't on the first pass, and there's times that they're relics. And, it's something you appreciate, but for it sort of influence then, and that you don't want to play now. And I was worried this might be that. But it wasn't for me. I agree there were some elements that weren't my favorite. The combat system is not my favorite thing. But everything else about this game works. This game was well loved, and I think it still is, and it's really easy to see why. We often say that the like test of games for us, especially RPGs, is the are we going to go back to it more because we had such a limited time? And this one 100% is that game for me.
Yeah.
I'll be revisiting this more. I probably won't wait for the remake. And I wish I was able to dig even deeper this week, and I plan to dig a lot deeper because not a relic, a true gem. Great game. It deserves all the hype. Yes, it's imperfect. It was better in 2003, but still 100% worth playing if you haven't. Absolutely in GP.
That's 2. What do you say, Nolan?
I say The Rise of Skywalker is the best Star Wars movie.
You're the only one that thinks that.
I say, okay, I really do think Mass Effect is better. First of all, I'll say that out loud because I think BioWare took this game and just perfected every single part of it, and it's an original story that I enjoy more than the Star Wars story. But I agree with Dustin. If you are looking for good Star Wars content and you've never touched this game, absolutely play it. You'll be so happy. There's something about it that feels like perfectly early 2000s, where like the prequels were in theaters and like Star Wars was everywhere, and I love like revisiting that. This game reminds me of that era. So, with that said, KOTOR is an excellent game, even with the flaws. I think the storytelling is the best thing it has to offer, and that is a big offering. It's very, very good. So even if Star Wars isn't your thing, I think you should play this game for the legacy. It's great.
Which means Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is New Game Plus certified. What did you think? We had 547 votes on YouTube. 60% said yes, it's worth playing today. 9% said no. And then 31% have still never played it before, which is leading me to wonder if the people that follow us on YouTube play video games.
I know. Some of these stats are just like, what? What are y'all talking
It's
about?
relative to most of the games that we get,
Yeah.
60% is huge.
Yeah, and this is more votes than normal recently, at least. And so people, 60% is definitely huge here. We had many people write in. I just wish that we could read them all. We do read them all, but can't read them all on air, and so we have to be selective over which ones we bring onto the show. But I want to read a few. Silas said, I'm a huge retro gamer and a huge fan of retro Star Wars games in particular, so I was slightly disappointed that the only Star Wars game you've covered was Episode 1 Racer. But at long last, my dream has come true. Knights of the Old Republic is my favorite game, and in my opinion, the best Western RPG ever made. The game has a rich and deep story that opened up a whole new era of Star Wars that grabbed me from the start. The semi-turn-based combat, or what some might call round-based, system allows for a lot of freedom, but takes a bit of getting used to. The characters you meet and the planets you visit are all extremely fleshed out and vibrant, and this has become a staple for all subsequent BioWare games. In the rare case that this game doesn't get NGP status, hopefully my vote will sway the community. New Game Plus for sure.
This is the best RPG on Xbox. Yeah.
Did
Yes.
Fable also come out on Xbox though?
Probably.
It was
Fable's
exclusive
really
to
good.
Xbox. It was
Yeah,
really
Fable's
good,
really
but
good.
different. I think this is
This is definitely top 3.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Yeah, I mean it's
It just
definitely up there.
defined that console. Like I furrowed my brow earlier when we were talking about the original Xbox console, because like whatever, but
Yeah.
like this is perfectly for that.
I wanted
Whatever.
to include. I wanted to include one dark side comment.
Yes.
And so Clint said, in many ways, KOTOR is one of those genre-defining experiences. It's a legend in gaming, and, well, I just don't like it that much. For whatever reason, I can't manage to stay interested in the aimless wandering around Terrace long enough after the escape pod sequence to pick up the plot threads, and the gameplay doesn't excite me. I don't think I'll give this game another try after this week. I've attempted to get into it several times now, and I just can't be bothered for some reason. I understand why it's so beloved. Between the setting, characters, music, it's clear that a lot of love was put into this title. I just wish I loved it back.
Oh, that's That's good. I respect that commentary. There are a couple iconic games that I've tried to do a couple times and I've been like, no, I can't. So,
Yeah. I respect it too. And there was a couple of hours where I felt like I was just grinding this week and I didn't really want to do it. But man, once you get into this game, I think maybe it takes too long to become a Jedi, because Jedi is what we all want to do, right? We all want to use force powers and wield the lightsaber.
It doesn't take
and it just
too
takes a
long.
while.
It's a little annoying when you have that like first cutscene and the doors open and there's
Jedi
lightsabers out and
abandoned?
Jedi are about to fight and they're like, oh, you're not ready for that.
Right. And they give you a
That's
samurai sword.
That's too strong for you. And then the doors close and you have to go do more boring things.
Yeah,
it's really emblematic of kind of how long it takes you to get to that sort of awesome point for sure.
This is like one of the first games where you can truly feel like a Jedi.
I
because
know.
lightsabers, eventually you get to modify your lightsabers and change even the crystal color, which is the biggest thing ever. You get to use and wield force powers. Like you can throw your lightsaber, force choke, force push. There's just so much here. It just takes a while to get to.
Okay, yeah.
All right, now I want to read from the 2 people that submitted it to our Patreon.
Yeah.
All right. So Maxima said, I'll start by saying I removed my rose-colored glasses from 2003, and of course there are noticeable flaws within the game. However, these flaws do not overshadow the masterpiece that this game is. First, this is essentially a video game version of a Star Wars D&D. Utilizing the tabletop stats as a framework, you're able to carefully craft your character and all the characters in your party precisely how you want to use them. Speaking of choices, you can take this game so many different directions. You can resolve any problem, light, dark, or in between. These choices leave this game with unlimited replay value. Not only that, you can travel the worlds in different order and kill a party member, which eliminates a side story and much more. Speaking of story, this is such a vast story and it's just so good. Obviously, it's New Game Plus, and yes, I started a list with first early in the commentary and didn't continue it in honor of Kenny.
Thanks.
You're right.
I'm so honored.
The replayability is through the roof. We didn't talk about that, but like you can just
Light side, dark side, male, female. There's romance options that come later.
Different roles. You can handle situations differently. You can do the stealth thing, the combat thing. Once you become a Jedi, you've got versions of Jedi that you get to be. You've got tons of options here, which is so fun.
So much replayability. And finally, Antonin. Antonin actually initially wrote a post that exceeded the max text that you can enter in Discord right now.
Sure.
So he abbreviated and then gave us a TLDR. So read his full commentary. It's great, but here's his TLDR. Okay. What we're witnessing here is the best of RPGs, the best of Star Wars, best villain of the franchise, the best of storytelling, and the best of Xbox, all wrapped up in a neat package that you can play now on any platform. I can't wait to submit KOTOR 2 in the next poll. Also, the Ebon Hawk is greater than the Boomer Falcon. He's saying the ship that you get in this game is better than the Millennium.
A lot of bold statements. A lot of them true. Some of them totally not. But I love that he loves this game so much.
Yeah. Thank you for sending in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. You can do that each and every week to ngppodcast@gmail.com or drop your commentary in our commentary channel in Discord. We'd love to at least try to include your thoughts as a part of our show next week. But for now, we're going to set aside Knights of the Old Republic. Kenny's going to come back to it at least. And we're going to select the game, but it's not random.
Again?
It's again, dude. Well, last week it was random within the Patreon pool.
Do we even podcast?
This time it is not random. Okay. Because we are going to be bringing back a friend of the show. Garlisle has been a longtime listener and supporter. Garlisle has supported us at the director level for a long time now. Garlisle has also been one of the leading voices in our retro recaps recently. He is a staple to our community, writes in, plays along with us, and writes in on every game for well over 100 episodes.
He's a legend.
He's a legend, and he is joining us again. And the fun thing is, he has sent me a series of messages that are spoiler hidden, that are hidden behind a black box. So I don't even know what the game is, and I'm going to slowly reveal it to all of us. Okay?
Wait,
that's fun. He's doing your role.
This should be a requirement of all future director submissions, because that's good.
I don't know about that. Well, maybe. I trust Garlisle to not have picked a game that we haven't played and picked
Sure, yeah, of
all of those
course.
things. But without further ado, the retro game of the week is the game is a 2003 title.
Again?
So yeah, same. Wait, is he picking Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic?
It better not be, because I'm not done with this one.
I'm clicking the second box. It is part of a series that NGP has not had yet, and it's
Okay.
one with international fame.
Okay.
Okay.
There's still okay.
Eh.
Next box. It is also a humble series, initially sold in person at a Japanese comic convention by a singular creator. All right, so we can stop trying to guess because we're not going to know what this is.
We're not going to get it, but I'm worried.
By the way, last time Garlisle came on the show, he brought a game that we had never played before. It was Live Alive, and
It's
so
excellent.
this is I bet it's another one that's just a weird thing we don't really know about, unless it's like a Phoenix, one of the. It's a
Phoenix
PC
Wright.
bullet hell game. Come on,
Is it really? He's trolling. I bet the next message is just kidding, because
he's
I'm
not trolling.
I'm not
It's
playing
a PC. It's a PC bullet hell. Why would he do this, knowing that y'all hate it? And I mean, I hate bullet hell.
This
I don't
too.
is
hate it.
exactly
I'm just
why he's
mad at
doing it.
All right, I'm
hate it.
clicking the next one. You'll be helping investigate the disappearance of Spring from the fantasy land of Gensokyo in, here's the game, Tohu 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom.
No. What is that?
I mean,
Tohu?
I've heard them talking about it before. Why would he have us play a bullet
I
hell?
don't
Is he
know.
trying to get
I'm-
justification for that last
Ikaruga?
Ikaruga?
I'm worried that if we haven't played Tohu 5, sort of okay Cherry Blossom, and Tohu
Yeah.
3,
Make your joke.
stunted Cherry Blossom, that we're not
He's
going to have
still
the
going.
lore required for this game.
Okay.
Oh man.
Am I saying Touhou? Would you say
That's
that?
how
Tohu?
I'd say it, but I don't
Tohu.
actually know at all.
Right.
Tohu.
Garlisle will correct us all out next week.
Yes,
We play
he will.
another freaking bullet hell. So find a copy somehow of Tohu. Find Perfect Cherry Blossom and play it along with us and Garlisle next week.
Join us in Discord, everybody. If you made it to this point of the episode, then you like us and you like the show, so you need to be part of the community. And also, we're trying to hit 1,000 members in our Discord so that we can throw a giant party. Go to discord.gg/newgameplus to join our Discord, and you can leave your commentary there and talk about cherry blossoms.
You can also support the ongoing creation of New Game Plus by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Like our many producer level supporters, including Marley Antonin, Soul Ben, Brunt, Carey, Captain Protein, Dan, DB Muppet, Francesca, Gimbin, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Nick, Corey, Maxima, Mr. Lattes, Nawel, Sajan, Secret Duck of Evermore, Shauna, Thomas, Unbedavable, William, Zachary, and Zion. You could go above and beyond and become a director level supporter like Brojim, Garlisle, and Clint, and like Hype upon Hype, our newest director level supporter.
Whoa.
Chris. Welcome. Thank you so much for hopping on board. Can't
Wow,
wait to play a
thanks.
game with you. Also want to say a shout out to Ricardo. Thank you for becoming a patron for the first time this
Ricardo,
week.
welcome.
And I will say this is a great week to hop on looking at some of those Patreon rewards, because we got some cool community events coming up that it's not too late for you to be a part of. So hop in Discord, hop on patreon.com, check it out.
You can find those links as well as all of our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our good friend Dan Willett. Our video episode was edited and produced by our friend Dylan. Join us next week as we play Tohu.
I'm not gonna do it.
as we play, I'm pulling it up again. I don't want to get it wrong. As we play Touhou 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom. Until then, I'm still. What was my initial character's name?
Dunce.
Buffoon Dunce.
I'm still Jedi Dunce.
I'm excited for this game because I trust Garlisle.
I'm Dak Chard.
Dak Chard. And this has been New Game Plus.